My name's Andy Kirkwood. I'm a resident of Swanage in Dorset on the south coast of England. And about 3 years we were blighted with a planning application that was made for drilling for gas and oil from a quarry that's less than 1 mile out of town. The planning application was handled by the county council, and it went straight through the 2 local councils without them making any comment whatsoever. And the vote at the county council was just 4 councillors to 3. The community was never properly informed of any of this. The only people who actually sent letters were people who lived along the lorry route to and from the planned site. And I personally only found out about it 4 months after the application went through. We were really shocked to find out about this, and so started a group called Stop the Swanage Gas Rig. And the way that they did this and got it through so easily was that they said that they were drilling to see if there was gas and oil there, but they weren't exactly sure. And so it was just a temporary application. Everything would just come in for a few weeks and then disappear again, and so not to worry about it. And so all of the normal protections were sidestepped. There was no environmental impact done. There was no testing of the ground soil. There was no protection for the water, or all of these things were completely sidestepped. And all the government agencies just said, look, because it's temporary, we don't really need to take this seriously. And of course, this is drilling by stealth. The other issue was that they avoided at all costs talking about fracking. However, the geological reports of the bay, done by Professor Ian West of Southampton University, shows that there is shale ideal for fracking within this particular zone. Now, one of the things which is deeply concerning is that the UK government have provided land blocks that any company can buy with a view to drilling, and those companies don't have to have any drilling credentials whatsoever. They don't have to have any expertise, they don't have to have any money behind them, they don't have to have any funds available to clear up if something goes wrong. The cost of getting a licence block is about £1,400. So anyone who's got about $2,000 US can get this licence block, which is exactly what this company, Infrastrata, did. Getting the planning is a formality because the central government bribes the local government £100,000 to pass each planning application. Therefore, the local government is only too keen to assist the company and pass that planning application. So that will cost the company maybe another £300 or £400. So for less than £2,000, anyone can set up a potential drilling site. And the way they progress this from there is to then sell the potential of profits when the oil and gas arrives. So they just find somebody who's willing to do the drilling and say, well, we'll cut you in for 30%. The landowner will cut you in for 5%. The people who want to do the security get 0.5%. The people who provide all the fencing get 0.25%, and so on. So they don't actually have to provide any money at all. This is just a massive Ponzi scheme. So the problem with this, of course, is that if you hire a car, you have to leave your credit card as details as security. If you hire an apartment, you have to put down a deposit on it. But if you want to drill in this country, you don't have to put down any money or any funds or any security whatsoever. So if something goes wrong, and things do go wrong, there is no money available to solve any problems. And these companies are limited companies, so they can fold at the blink of an eye with no liability, and the community is left holding the baby now. But the worrying thing is that Infrastrata, the first people they offered or invited to come and do the drilling were BP, British Petroleum. Now, BP like to go drilling for gas and oil. That's what they do, and they turned the offer down flat. And that's deeply worrying. And the reason why they did that was because 20 years ago, BP tried to get to this same reserve of gas and oil, which is out under the sea. And the drilling muds and the oil started percolating up into the sea. And so they had to abandon the drilling. And BP have a reputation that they don't want to tarnish or lose. And therefore, they didn't want anything to do with this project. But that doesn't mean that some other tin pot drilling company, probably from China, will not come along and be tempted to just have a go at doing this. They'll have little expertise, very poor health and safety standards, and in all probability, if a problem happens, the community will be the ones who are left with the burden of it. Now, that is just one aspect of it. There is nothing in this community that can be gained from this project. The lorry movements alone in the setting up stage could be around 1,000 lorry movements in the first month. And the roads are poorly aligned through ancient villages, housing estates where children are playing. The road leading to the site has actually been condemned in a health and safety report as being too steep, too narrow, too slippery, right angle corners, no passing places for juggernauts to get past each other. The whole thing is an absolute disaster. The houses at the bottom are unprotected, so if a lorry's brakes fail, the house will be completely destroyed. There are children using the road. There's no footpaths or footways. And then we get to the site itself. The site is actually on a site of nature conservation interest, which means it's a protected area for wildlife. Right next door to it is the Jurassic Coast, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's the only one that the UK has that's been designated for its geology and hence its beauty. And it's the most gorgeous piece of coastline you can find anywhere in the world. And this gas drilling and refinery will stick out on the top of the cliff like a sore thumb. The whole area is a special area of conservation where every species is meticulously logged, charted, and annotated to ensure that it's not in decline. Right next door to that and downwind from the drilling, 2 meters away, is Dilston Country Park, which is again another wildlife haven, and recently received excuse me, a huge amount of money from lottery grants to attract people there to talk about the wildlife of this area. Signboards in Dilston will show you that they have puffins breeding there, razorbills, guillemots, shags, cormorants, a wide range of seabirds use that habitat. Because Purbeck pushes out into the sea, it is a natural wildlife corridor for birds, for migrating birds. The site itself will be floodlit 24 hours a day. It's got 3 huge generators running, bus-sized generators running 24 hours a day. And this is upwind of Dilston Country Park. There's a primary school there, so the children will be suffering, obviously, from any fumes should there be any outflow of methane or nitrous oxide from the site. And right next door to that, again, is a SSSI site of special scientific interest, which is the second highest, most protected piece of land in the whole of the UK after the Ramsar sites. And so this site is utterly unacceptable for this kind of work. But the influence of the council on the people who should be acting to protect this area is patently visible, as when I wrote to the Dorset Wildlife Trust saying that I was concerned about this being on the site of nature conservation interest. They wrote back and said that they didn't see concreting over this land as being a bad way to protect a flowering chalkland meadow, which of course is utter nonsense. So then looking at the site itself, it's about 3 acres. It's surrounded by razor wire fencing and earth bunds. It has 8 porta cabins on it for accommodation and for a mess room and for a toilet and shower block. You obviously have the drill. You've got the three large generators going. The place will be floodlit. It's surrounded by nitrous oxide sensors in case there's an escape of gas. And you have all of the other paraphernalia, pipe bins, places in which to store the drilling muds, and so on. And this doesn't provide any employment for the local community. All of the workers get brought in. You can't put a sign up in a post office window and expect to find somebody who knows how to operate a drilling rig. So as a result of this, and as a result really of the negligence of the local government, the local residents have banded together, formed a Stop the Swanage gas rig group, which is an ever-expanding group, and our aim is to try and inform people of this disaster that's happening within this town. For those of you that don't know, Purbeck is an extremely special place in the UK. It has extraordinary geology and a lot of different habitats in a very small area, from sandy beaches with dunes behind, limestone cliffs, chalk cliffs. Poole Harbour is one of the third largest natural harbour in the world, forests, heathlands, and these are all within a few kilometres of each other. It's an outdoor and walker's paradise. The UNESCO World Heritage Site has been chosen wisely because the geology of the coast is so special and so beautiful, and this drilling is right smack on top of that. And should they find gas and oil in the quantities that they believe are there, and the extraction starts, the first thing they need to do is to build a gas refinery. The company has actually rented an area of land that's 6 times the size of the current drilling site, so they can easily expand and build a large refinery there. The next thing they will need to do is to put a pipeline through to connect the gas through to the main pipeline, driving it through the area of outstanding natural beauty. Which kind of brings me on to the local council, Purbeck District Council, who have a local plan, which is 400 pages long, designed to protect this area. And it is very difficult for someone, for example, just to put a front porch on their house or to change a chimney pot without the council giving them grief. And yet this application for drilling for gas and oil went straight through in 6 weeks without anybody being informed. I don't think that's acceptable. And then, of course, the next thing is that the horror of potentially fracking the area and the well site. And as I mentioned before, the geological reports from Southampton University say there is shale ideal for fracking between here and the Isle of Wight. And there is talk of fracking right the way through the file. Interestingly, when people wrote letters of objection to the planning application, anyone who mentioned fracking, their letter was discarded and thrown away and not allowed as being a legitimate objection, which is an utter nonsense. The government have now recently, the Conservative government are full on about fracking. They talk about it all the time as being the godsend for energy for the UK. We all know that that is a lie, and that fracking any well only provides gas for somewhere between 6 and 9 months at best. And so once you have drilled one well, you immediately have to go and start drilling another well, which is, we've seen those aerial photographs of Pennsylvania with wells every 200 meters stretching out to the horizon. And these wells are significant. You need, the equipment is heavy. You have to have a very dense roadway, and you have to have a very dense, thickly concreted drilling pad. And that in itself has a terrible impact on the what is happening in the earth. It separates, the creatures in the earth being able to move from one place to another. I don't know how much everybody knows about this, but each frack is requires about 70 Olympic swimming pools of fracking fluid. Now, this just isn't just water. There's a whole cacophony of nasty chemicals in there, from heavy metals, a lot of diesel, and sand mixed in, and because what they need to do is to not only break the rock under fantastic pressure, but to drive sand into the crevices to keep them open. But they also then need that sand to stick so that the crevices stay open and the gas can bubble out. Now, when fracturing the rock, it's an unspecific science. It's like breaking a window and hoping that the crack doesn't go from one side of the window all the way through to the other. Because if the frack does go through to the water table, then whatever is in where you are fracking, i.e. the gas or the oil, the hydrocarbons, and the contents of your water table are now mixed. And once they are mixed, that is a one-way ticket. There is no way then to unmix those two, which means you now have no potable drinking water, and your water is poisoned. And this, of course, is another device for the corporations to see an opportunity, because if you've got poisoned drinking water, then the opportunity to sell bottled water increases tenfold. And that not only includes you at home, but also farmers will have to buy drinking water in for their cattle and sheep because they won't be able to trust the water that's coming out of the tap. And this, it's just an absolute complete nonsense. And when the frack is done, about half of the fluid is returned to the surface. It still has all those toxic chemicals in them, anything up to 200 different chemicals, known carcinogens, and there is no way to purify that water. So they don't know what to do with it, and so they just leave it to evaporate. Well, then when it evaporates, it takes all these toxins with it, and now it's in the rain. And when it rains, it comes down in the soil, and now it's in the soil, and now it's in the food chain, and so on and so on. And hence the nightmare of fracking. And we don't have to guess at this, because we know what happened in the States in Pennsylvania. We know what happened there. You only have to go and look at the Pennsylvania Clean Water Alliance to see that 2,400 families, not people, families have been adversely affected health-wise by the fracking. In Australia, an area 3 times the size of Britain has been fracked out and is now poisonous. It's normal for ordinary people to be carrying Geiger counters and gas sniffers. And I don't want to live like that. I don't think that's acceptable. And that's in Australia, where they have quite a lot of space. A similar thing in the UK is going to be an absolute complete disaster. And in Australia, people, the wind changes and the rain comes, and people grab their children and bring them indoors because they don't trust whether it's going to make them sick or not. And I don't want to live in a world like that. And there's very strong evidence, because the UK government is also perversely crazy about nuclear energy. And there's talk of creating new nuclear power plants all over the UK. And they have ordered 6 from China. Well, if you want something which is going to be totally unreliable, if you want a lighter which only works 3 times, or a chair which breaks the 3rd time you sit on it, you buy one from China. And so it's not where I would go first to go and buy a nuclear reactor. Now, nuclear reactors produce waste nuclear material, and so there has been no talk of the disposal of this nuclear material in the UK by the government. And it has in the States previously been done, where they take the waste nuclear material and they stuff it down the previously fracked hole. So these two technologies go hand in hand. First of all, you drill the hole, you frack it, you take a bit of gas out, and now you've got a convenient hole that you can now stuff with nuclear material. And the law was in the UK, until quite recently, that they couldn't do this under your property, that you owned the land to the centre of the earth. That was the law. And recently the government changed that and said that you can now drill under anybody's land, anybody's property, do anything you like under it, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And this is a real bad piece of news. And further, the decision to frack has been centralised. So now local governments, local councils, even if you have a good council who care about their community, and that is extraordinarily rare, they can no longer protect their community because the decision is overturned and has been overturned in Lancashire by the central government. And they are talking about making all fracking decisions in Westminster, which means that the community no longer have any say whatsoever about who drills under their house or what they do there. And this is really bad news for everyone. So the question we have to ask is how do we find ourselves in this position? Because we are supposed to be living in a democracy, and the government and the local councils are supposed to be representing our interests and our views. And they are clearly not doing that. Polls in the UK say that 86% of people are dead against fracking. That should be the end of the discussion. 86% of the population don't want it. There should be no further thing to discuss. And why do I have to, as just a member of the community, have to have a file like this that I've assembled from all the council papers and the planning permissions and all the plans and drawings and all the letters that I've been writing backwards and forwards to the council, trying to inform them of the error of their ways, when they are doing absolutely nothing themselves. So we have a government who is madly for it. Then we have a county council who feel that they have to follow the advice of the government and are bribed to do so. Then we have a district council who completely ignored their own local plan, which is full of protections for the area of outstanding natural beauty and for the wildlife and preservation of the area. And then we have a town council who have their own mission statements for protecting the town for future generations, for encouraging tourism, for protecting the Jurassic Coast, for all of these things, and have completely ignored all that. So what we can say, what we can deduce from that, is that there is no democracy in Britain whatsoever. These people are not representing us. And so I am of the view that the way to change this is to empower the people so that the people actually get engaged in these kind of decisions. We have the technology now to do that. We don't need to go and have a representative who goes up to Westminster for us. 1,000 years ago, the squire had to go to Westminster because he was the only one who had a horse. But guess what? We have technology now. You could have an app on your phone. You could use the internet. You could have a touch-tone phone. You could even go to your post office and vote. And the people should be engaged in referendums on every single issue. And if they had a referendum right now on fracking, it wouldn't happen. And that is why I have set up a political party called the Movement for Active Democracy, and the only thing it suggests is that we should, the people should be fully participational in every major decision as it comes down the track, both being able to suggest what those decisions should be and also being able to vote freely and fairly. And then you engage the masses, and suddenly all of these decisions, which only suit the 1 or 2%, the wealthiest elite in our society, suddenly change, because what they are doing is not what suits or what is in the best interest of the people. It's a very simple one-pill fix for the problems of this planet, I believe. So that's my mission, really, is to go to the heart of the problem and to get into Westminster and to change everything from the inside. And until that happens, because you can walk around on the streets with banners all day, but if they don't want to listen to you, they won't be listening to you. And the evidence of that is everywhere. And we do what we can, and we fight every corner that we can. Information is key, but until the system is changed, not just the politicians, the system is changed so that the people are fully and properly represented, then nothing will change. And we have one thing which has arrived, which is an absolute godsend, and that is the internet. which allows us to share free and fair information between ourselves, and we don't have to listen to the party line on the television and the radio any longer. So I would say that's a really important thing. So maybe have a look at starting some local democratic group where people are actually engaged in the decision-making process. My personal one is Movement for Active Democracy. Maybe have a look at it on the website, see what you think.